Hey, it's Rose Bowl week, the college football playoff quarterfinal against Indiana, and I don't even know why Alabama even bothered getting on the plane and traveling out to Pasadena. Welcome to Beat Everyone. I'm Ben Flanagan with AL.com. Alabama plays Indiana in Pasadena on New Year's Day, as you all know, and the granddaddy of them all, the Rose Bowl. Bama went west in 2023 for what would be Nick Saban's final game when they lost to Michigan in overtime. Now they get the Big Ten champs again. This time it's Kalen DeBoer, it's Ty Simpson, it's Heisman-winner Fernando Mendoza, and former Nick Saban assistant, head coach of Indiana, Curt. Indiana is favored by about a touchdown. It was media day yesterday. It was open season for the players and coaches. We could ask them anything. That's why you heard from Ryan Williams about his future at Alabama, why we heard from Keelan Russell and Austin Mack and more. And our guys are there right now. Read all of our AL.com Alabama football coverage, Rose Bowl coverage on the website. But in the meantime, let's catch up with our friend and AL.com Alabama beat writer Nick Kelly. Nick, how's it going out there?
It's great. It's been a little overcast of late, though, so we'll see how the weather turns out. But there has been some sun, so got to enjoy that a little bit. Decent warmth, so can't complain.
Nick, you were out there for media day. It's always busy. It's open season. They give you like 60 to 90 minutes. There's some idiot behind you right now. I can't tell who it is, but you saw literally every player at once. What was the vibe of this team a couple of days before kickoff?
Yeah, I think they're just eager to head into another game and essentially at this point prove people wrong. I think they are, whether right or wrong, they are placing a gigantic chip on their shoulder. I think Ty Simpson, you look at him and his approach toward the end of the season, he was a bit more, hey, we're grateful to be in this game. Like, what a great opportunity. Like, we're going to take advantage of this great opportunity. And then he kind of flipped the switch, starting with post-game Oklahoma of forget the world, the calling out the haters type of vibe. And he's continued that ever since. And I think this team has embodied that with him being the kind of leader he is. So we'll see kind of how it turns out for him, but they certainly are taking that underdog mentality.
Nick, Alabama appears to be healthy as they have been all year. They didn't even have Jam Miller to start the season. He's back, says he's 100%. Josh Cuevas is back. Kevin Riley is even back. And Alabama got the good news that L.T. Overton will return to the defensive line. How are they feeling about their health and depth right now?
I think they feel fantastic. I mean, it really has not been in a spot like this all season long, to your point. I mean, and that allows you not only to have guys available on game day, but also to practice at full strength. I think that's an underrated part of it is people don't realize how much practice and your preparation is affected when you have guys who maybe they can play in the game, but they can't practice much, aren't able to be there. That's sometimes why you can see slow starts or you can see guys have issues or things go out of hand or get out of hand. So I think you couldn't ask for just better timing on guys getting rested up, being ready to go, and the guys who have kept playing, just a chance to not play football games. I mean, they've played one football game essentially in the past month. So they're in a great spot, and I think it's going to give you a chance to see just how well they can play when they have everyone together.
Nick, you read a piece about how Alabama might try to stop or contain Fernando Mendoza. We know his credentials. He's the Heisman winner, undefeated, nearly 3,000 yards passing, 33 touchdown passes, just six interceptions. But there's one unit that, according to your article, must step up to give Alabama a shot. If they can get some pressure on him, those stats obviously aren't as impressive.
Yeah, no doubt. I think that when under pressure, like most quarterbacks, he's not as good. And if you let him sit back, pick apart your defense, he's going to do just that. If he has the time to do that, he's very capable and he's very talented. So you have to affect him. It doesn't mean you always have to sack him, but you do need to make sure you get to him. You need to make sure that he can't just comfortably look at your defense, survey it, and find the guy who's open. So that's going to be so key in this game. So you got to look at Yonze Pierre. Getting L.T. Overton back is huge in that regard. He's their number 2 pass rusher behind Yonze, and just other guys as well. I mean, they had guys step up who have kind of been role players or more depth guys in that Oklahoma game. You look at Keon Keeley, you look at Kelby Collins, guys who got sacks in that game. So they need more of that, because if Alabama can bring waves of guys who can get after the quarterback, that'll put him in some tough spots, and that's what Alabama's got to do to be able to win this game.
Nick, I liked another piece that you wrote. The headline was, is Indiana or Alabama more battle-tested? And that's ultimately what put Alabama in the playoff, right? Their strength of schedule, string of wins against ranked opponents, that was their identity. They were battle-tested, but maybe a little too battle-tested because how beat up they got. They got a little sloppy down the stretch, but Indiana handled their business against the good teams that they faced. So, Nick, Who has the edge and experience when it comes to handling real adversity heading into this one?
I think it's Alabama. I mean, I don't think you can say that Indiana has they ain't played nobody, Paul. Like this isn't one of those teams. They've played people and they've won some big games and they've been in some adverse situations. But Alabama, partly of their own doing, has really found a way to put themselves in tough spots and had to come back from down 17. I mean, both symbolically in games and also just the season, they put themselves in some holes. I mean, it started with losing to Florida State, and you basically have to get things right fast and then go to Athens and respond there. And then you also look at how things went in the first Oklahoma game, how things went against Georgia. Like Alabama's had to bounce back from all these games. And in many games, South Carolina, you look at another matchup where Alabama was down and they had to pull that out in the end. So Alabama has, if they lose this game, it won't be because that they can't handle some adversity. I think it's going to be because if they lose, it's going to be because Indiana's just a really good football team. But Alabama's got a stronger strength of schedule. They've been tested more, so I think you can look at that. But I also don't think that means that Indiana's a bad football team. I think that that is the very important point to make. That just because Alabama's had a tougher schedule doesn't mean that Indiana hasn't played a tough schedule at one point or another. So I do think it's a this is not some Big Ten team who's played nobody. That's not the case at all. But Alabama has one of the toughest schedules in the country, and they have faced adversity time and time again.
Yeah, Nick, we heard from Ryan Williams yesterday. He reflected on this season. He said it's not all sunshine and rainbows. He's also indicated that he's planning to stick around in Tuscaloosa and remain part of Alabama's team. So no sight set on the transfer portal. What did you learn from Ryan Williams this week?
Yeah, I got to talk to him for a few minutes yesterday, and he was really introspective and I think mature, frankly. I mean, he's 18. I think we forget. I mean, I believe he's younger than Latsier Brooks. And I think that we act like Ryan's this, veteran guy, but I mean, he's still a young guy. But the fact that he showed the maturity to be like, hey, there's been some ups, there's been some downs. But one thing that I thought was insightful is that he had such a high with that Georgia game in 24, where I mean, he became almost like an instant like college football celebrity because of that game. And you could argue that like game alone is kind of the conduit that got him to being on the cover of the video game and getting those big deals he got. And I think this season has helped give him perspective as to okay, you can have those high highs, but like the mountaintops are not constants. Like you're going to have some valleys, and so how are you responding to that? And I really just got philosophical there on you, like classroom postery, but it's true though, and I think that he's had to realize that there's more to uh, being a college football player than just having those big time moments because even the best of players every single game are not having moments like that. So I think it's given him perspective on how to be a college football player and really has helped. He's matured this season through it all because yeah, there have been some tough moments for him.
Yeah, we're here with Nietzsche Kelly, apparently. You wrote a great piece called Untold Stories from Curt Cignetti's Alabama Grind and Kalen DeBoer's Indiana Rise. People should go check that out. But I wonder, what have you noticed from the two coaches this week after writing that piece? Have they lived up to the reputations or, how would you describe their temperaments heading into their biggest game of the season?
Yeah, well, we just had a press conference with them a little bit ago where they were sitting right next to each other, and Curt Cignetti, I was talking about this with our colleague Michael Casagrande. Like he brought up it, there are some ways that Curt Cignetti feels like a Saban disciple. Like it feels like Nick Saban up on the riser, so to speak. And I mean, they're not the same person at all. I mean, they are different people, but there is you can sense some things. You hear a few things he says. You're like, yeah, that sounds like someone who's worked for Nick Saban. And Kalen DeBoer's Kalen DeBoer, and I think that if you read the story, like you'll see a Curt Cignetti type guy who was essentially raised in the fire of Nick Saban's ire, if you will. And then you have Kalen DeBoer who rose up and essentially, I mean, even though they both came from small schools in different ways, they took very different paths through that because Cignetti was an FBS assistant for a long time before he went the small school route, whereas Kalen was a small school assistant coach, head coach for a long time before he started rising up the ranks. But Kalen really, in some ways, helped elevate Indiana to this moment. I mean, don't get me wrong, Curt Cignetti and his staff, that's what they've done a lot of. But that 2019 season, they took the next step. I mean, they won 8 games, and Indiana was a huge deal at the time. And he helped the offense turn from, I think it was like number 88 into the number 40 something scoring offense. Like they spent the most I think pretty high for what Indiana had ever spent on an assistant coach to bring DeBoer in to call that offense. And so Indiana's been doing this slowly but surely, and Kalen was a big part of that. And then Curt Cignetti obviously has taken that to a completely different level last 2 years. Uh, but it's
Seems
been
like you're
quite
saying
the.
he's in Kalen DeBoer's shadow there. What you're is that sounds like what you're saying here, Nick.
I'm getting at that. I'm getting at that. No, but it is interesting. Like you hear people how like that just create that 19 years started building uh, to making Indiana more legitimate than they were when they were going 5-7 and losing its program in college football history. So a lot of fun stories to learn about both of them.
He seems pretty cranky, though, to use another Saban analogy. And I know that this press conference that you just went to, I was there 2 years ago, and it just seemed like extra, right? And it seems like you've said everything you want to say, and you just want to play the game now. And maybe that's the vibe that we were getting from Cignetti. But I mean, the guy was even complaining about travel affecting the team's practice, right? What do you get from that?
Yeah, I think he definitely likes a certain order and routine, and that's one thing that I think he learned a lot from Nick Saban was how to run an organization, how to keep things in line, how to hey schedule this that way, and then liking it a certain way and being used to it being in a certain way. So that part, I think you talk to people who spent time around Cignetti at Alabama, like that was the biggest thing that he would have seen from Saban is how to organize everything. And hearing Cignetti talk about it now, it does sound very Saban-like at that point. So I definitely do I do sense that from him, and yeah, I think that you can tell that Cignetti doesn't like when the schedule is different or when guys are having a bad practice that because you had to fly to California to take part in it.
Maybe that's what happened in the opening round last year when they played. Nick, you tried to big time us. You told us you only had 15 minutes. So this is my last question for you. I'm not going to ask for a score prediction, but a big question fans have had ahead of games with Alabama is which Alabama will show up. They look like one of the best teams in the country who could beat anyone for a long stretch of this season. And then they didn't look very competitive at all against Georgia in a rematch in the SEC title game. It looked really grim when it was 17-0 out in Oklahoma, but they showed a lot of grit to come back and win. So, Nick, which Alabama shows up at the Rose Bowl?
I'd, I'd like to be an optimist and say it's going to be the good Alabama, but I'm not convinced that good Alabama will beat Indiana. I think that's the important distinction. But I do think that Alabama, because of the health, because of the preparation, Kalen DeBoer is incredibly good off of about 2 weeks of prep time. I forget the exact number, but he only has one loss with 2 weeks or more of prep in his time at Fresno, or maybe it's just Washington and Alabama. And that loss was the ReliaQuest Bowl last year. So he does a good job of prepping them. They're healthy. I mean, you have to get up for this game. Like, I don't see how you could come out flat. And I think they're making a point of that too. Ryan Grubb has brought that up. So I think, yeah, I'd be surprised if they're flat, if they don't play well. I think they'll play well. I just don't know that it's going to be good enough to beat what's the number one team in the country.
Well, the ReliaQuest Bowl is happening as we speak. I hate to drag you away from that, but it sounds like Nick Kelly is predicting an Indiana blowout of Alabama, and we'll see what the fans think of that. Like I said, why did Alabama even bother getting on the plane? He's Nick Kelly. Follow his work on AL.com. Find him on socials at _Nick Kelly. Nick, thank you, man. Stay safe. Happy New Year to you.
Hey, thanks for having me. It sounds like you're trying to give some of that yummy rat poison, as Nick Saban like to call it. That's what that would sound like to me. So.
That's your job, and you just did a great job, Nick. We appreciate you. You're in mid-season form. Good luck to you out there. Stay safe.
Thanks, Ben.
We're joined now by our pal and AL.com Alabama beat writer, Matt Stahl. Matt, you did this 2 years ago. How does it feel to be back out in Cali so soon?
Dude, it's great. I like LA, like the area. Showed up probably earlier than I needed to. Played some golf. Went to the horse track. So, we're having a great time here.
You have any auditions while you're out there?
No.
Did you book anything?
Okay. No. You know, I'm not good at acting. So.
All right. Well, I'm just curious. Have you had any downtime? You said the horse track and everything, but did you go out and see the Hollywood signs? You get some street tacos or something? Ride the teacups at Disneyland? How have you spent your free time?
It was mostly, I got into town, or I had a direct flight from Nashville that dropped me at 9:30 a.m. in LA, like a day before I needed to be here, and it just went straight to a friend of AL.com, Alex Kirshner's house, and played. Then we went and played golf. So that was a big thing. I've definitely eaten some food, and Everybody else went to the media party. That's always a great time that I don't think anybody actually cares to hear about if you're not a media member. Yeah, went to the horse track, lost every dollar I brought to the horse track. A little unclear how rent's going to get paid this month.
All right, Matt. I'm sorry I asked at this point. We can talk about it more off mic, get you some help. Okay, we're here to talk football. Let's just start with Ty Simpson. Struggled in the last few games of the regular season and then the rematch against Georgia, but he appeared to find his form again at Oklahoma. He seems confident. We heard from him at Media Day. Guy watches Seinfeld before games. He plays with Legos, apparently. We're learning a lot about who Ty Simpson is. You wrote a story about his future at Alabama. Before we get there, what do you see from Ty Simpson right now? Which version are you expecting to see from him against Indiana?
Yeah, he seemed a lot like he maintains that he was just sort of regular in season beat up for the Georgia game and like before that, but like I'm not sure if I'm completely buying that, but he looked a lot better against Oklahoma. Not early. The whole offense looked terrible early in that game when they were falling behind 17-0. But it was that third down throw. I think it's to Jeremy Bernard, right? Maybe Latsier Brooks, one of those guys. But it finally gets the whole offense in rhythm after 3 or 4 consecutive 3-and-outs to start that game. And from there, he looked great. I mean, they kept him clean. He was getting the rhythm was so huge for him. He just hadn't been for weeks and weeks and weeks there. And a lot of the times they won anyway, but that wasn't going to work against Oklahoma. So yeah, it was big to get him sort of back in the swing of things, get his confidence back up. Clearly looked a little bit healthier, got into rhythm. And we'll see against Indiana. I think this Indiana defense is really, really good. Ty, the back half of the season has not really been that good if you get him off his spot. Indiana can get him off his spot, so I am intrigued to see how that goes.
Well, yesterday he was asked about his future at Alabama. Will he play another season or will he enter the NFL draft? You know, he earned a lot of praise in the first half of the year. A lot of people declared him the number 1 overall pick even, but we know how that goes. The season ebbs and flows. What did Ty say, and what do you expect him to do when this season is over?
I mean, he said he hasn't thought about it, which, I mean, look, I would never impugn the character of Ty Simpson, but in the immortal words of Trill Withers, lying goes so crazy.
I feel like you're impugning. Now you're just impugning, Matt.
Look, man,
you said you wouldn't impugn. Now you're impugning.
That you got to be. I don't know how you haven't thought about the NFL already. But he said he hadn't thought about it. You know, focusing on the big game. He said all the right things. As for what I expect from him, I don't know. I'm not a draft expert. I don't actually care for the NFL draft as a product. I don't watch the NFL all that much, so I don't know how he's going to fit into the NFL offensive systems or whatever. It seems like it's going to be kind of a lousy quarterback class, top to bottom, so maybe he sees this as like a great opportunity to be 1 or 2 QB off the board. A lot of money in the NFL. I don't know if that's been said. You can make a lot. Those guys are pretty well paid. So, but I mean, he can also make some money at Alabama coming back for another year at NIL. So maybe if he thinks it's going to be, you know, 3rd round or below, something like that, maybe he sticks around for another season. But I really have no insight into what decision he'll ultimately make here.
Matt, what about the backups? We heard from Austin Mack and Keelan Russell during media day. It sounds like Mack is ready to play football after a few years as a backup. And Keelan Russell, he says he's staying at Alabama. And Ty Simpson's choice is obviously going to impact their decisions one way or the other. But what's been your read on Mack and Russell's comments yesterday?
Yeah, I mean, for Mack, they're both in different places of their college careers, right? Like Mack, if he's going to become an NFL quarterback, really does need to go out and like start playing. He needs to get on the field somewhere. I don't know if that's Alabama. I don't know if that's, I mean, God, Nick Sheridan's going to Michigan State. Jamarcus Shepard's at Oregon State. Like, you never know what the portal could bring. But I think if one of them's more likely to enter the portal, it's him. And it's just because, he needs to get on the field. And maybe there's a logjam at Alabama that could prevent him from doing that. Keelan Russell definitely seemed locked into Alabama when I talked to him and asked him about that. He seems like he's sticking around. And that makes sense too. You know, he'll be a redshirt freshman next season. plenty of time in his career, even if he winds up spending another season behind Ty or, behind maybe eventually they bring in a veteran quarterback to try and battle for that job. But it's just, different spots in their careers is what I mostly took away from their comments yesterday.
You went to Alabama's practice at El Camino College. I'm not sure there's a cooler name for a school, to be quite honest with you, but you wrote about the playlist, obviously some AC/DC and Nipsey Hussle that they're playing to at practice, but only the quarterbacks were in non-contact black jerseys. What else stuck out to you from what we know was obviously limited time at practice?
Yeah, some of the new guys from the upcoming recruiting class were there. I mean, other than that, Tyler Hughes coaching wide receivers instead of Jamarcus Shepard. But yeah, I mean, other than that, you watch a lot of stretching, a lot of individual drills. Players looked very limber. I'll give them that.
Insightful.
Yeah, they're doing a great job stretching them out. It was good to see Jamarian Latham was out there. He and Jeremiah Beeman were just walking stadium steps. I mean, Jamarian had that neck injury that required like a hospital trip to Birmingham and to put him out for the season. So, yeah, great to see him just, back, no brace on the neck or anything, just out there walking stadium steps. So not much you can really glean from that sort of environment, but yeah, that was good to see.
I think the most reassuring thing, other than what you just mentioned, is the lack of black jerseys out there, and the fact that Cuevas and Miller and Riley and now LT Overton, they're all back and they're all cleared to play, and it seems like Alabama is as healthy as ever. So great news reported by you. You also heard from Ryan Grubb. He talked about how Alabama cannot start slow against Indiana. We've seen Alabama start slow quite a bit this year, but they're going to face, to use his word, a disciplined defense who's going to give them a lot of trouble. We know that Alabama has struggled to run the ball. The offensive line has been inconsistent in pass protection. Ty Simpson has certainly had his ups and downs. What do you see as the biggest challenge for this offense against Indiana's defense?
Yeah, it's tricky. I was talking about this with some people last night, just here at the media hotel. Indiana does a very Nick Saban Alabama thing where they never beat themselves, right? Like, you can show up with Johnny Manziel, or you can show up with an unbelievable game plan, and if you execute it to its full potential, like, that's your path to victory. Your path to victory is not the Hoosiers just coming unglued and beating themselves. And if you're down 17-0 against a team that doesn't beat itself, you're cooked. Like, that's it. There's no coming back from that. So Oklahoma made, lots and lots of mistakes throughout that game, really sort of allowed Alabama to come back into it. And that's the story of that. And that just won't happen. That path is not available against Indiana here. So, yeah, they got to start off the right way. I mean, you don't have to score on every possession against Indiana, but like, you have to sort of maintain pace with how they're doing offensively. And you can't, spending the entire first quarter sleepwalking strategy is not going to be a winning one in this game.
Yeah, don't expect them to start screwing up before you do. Interesting comment. I feel like you're really good at this. Interesting comment from Indiana's coach, Curt Cignetti. It drew some attention. He's asked about the Alabama mystique. Someone asked about, how does he convince players that they're playing the 2025 version of Alabama and not Alabama's reputation, Alabama's tradition? He said, quote, "You probably know more about the mystique than they do. Our guys just know what they see on tape," end quote. Matt, please interpret that one for us.
I mean, I think Indiana maybe knows that they've been better than Alabama this season. Like, that's sort of what it is. It's not like teams really did used to beat themselves coming into games against Alabama, right? Like circa 2012 era. Like, there were games where Alabama just showed up and everybody knew that the entire three deep was going to the NFL. And there were teams that just like were sort of in awe of that. And it really worked to Alabama's advantage at times. And I mean, it's just not the case this year. And it's not the case where like these players, college athletes now don't think they're playing against like the entire history of Alabama football, right? Because clearly the entire history of Alabama football beats Indiana entire history pretty handily. They're playing 2025 Alabama. 2025 Alabama has lost, has lost games, has looked bad at times. There's ways to beat 2025 Alabama, and I think that's all Cignetti was saying, is that's it. It's just you're not playing every great player in Alabama history. You're playing the 2025 Crimson Tide, and Alabama sort of leaned into that to some extent, right? Like they're almost doing like a little old Alabama routine at times, which is, there's a dissonance, I think, between that and you'll still get, like I was joking with somebody that we were going to get a nobody believes in little old Alabama bit, and also we're everybody's Super Bowl in the same press conference at some point. I've not seen that happen yet, but like they can kind of talk out of both sides of their mouth on that.
Matt, what do you think of Cignetti? Like, you've gotten a taste of covering him. What do you think it would be like to cover Curt Cignetti every day as a beat reporter?
I like him. I mean, he'll throw a good quote out. It seems like there's a lot of Saban to him. Maybe I've not seen him scream at anybody this week over a question that he just didn't want to answer. And there's not a gang of like people on the internet who, whenever he yells at somebody over a question that he doesn't want to answer, that'll like defend him as like, oh, what a stupid question. But yeah, there's a little like there's some dry humor that he and Saban share that I enjoy just as a reporter. And yeah, he's very straightforward about things. I like that too.
Matt, great stuff as always. Real quick, you're our resident king of the hot take. So before you go, give me one on New Year's Eve. I know you have an opinion.
I generally, the best New Year's Eve I've ever had they're all like going to bed at 12:01. I think it's amateur hour at the bars. That's my big one. Like there's always somebody throwing up and there's always somebody wanting to fight when you go out to the bars on New Year's Eve. So I think that's an overrated experience. I'm fine with celebrating like the coming of a new year though. So like, order some food, drink some beers at the house, but like I have really no desire to go like stand outside and watch the ball drop somewhere.
Are you a resolutions guy at all?
Some years. I need to think if I'm going to have one this year. Last year, I resolved to quit door dashing food, and
How'd that go?
I actually stuck to that. I was spending way too much money. That adds up. So that needed to end. Like 1 year, I resolved to quit chewing my fingernails. That stopped, but I don't know. This year, I don't know. I'm gonna try and get the handicap below 10. That's the main thing.
Always a good goal. Always something good to strive for there. All right. Well, you can find Matt Stahl and all of our Alabama football coverage on AL.com. Find him out there on the socials at Matt Stahl 97. Matt, thanks again, man. Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year. Thanks for having me.